Let's go to Liz in Bangor, Maine. What's up, Liz?
Hey there, Dr. John. How are you?
So good. What about you?
I'm living the dream.
Are you really? What's that like?
Nightmares can be dreams too, so.
I work on a podcast with James. So what's it? I'm just kidding. I love it. I'm living my dream. I'm living my BL, my best life. Hey, so what's up? How can I help?
So I have a question for you. How can I cultivate self-discipline when it comes to eating?
Are you setting me up? I'm the worst person to answer this call for you.
Yeah, I've been listening for a little while, so figured you might be one of the best people, so.
I feel like you're making fun of me a little bit, Liz, but it's okay. I'll go with it. All right, tell me about your relationship with food.
Well, I've always struggled with my weight, starting from the time I was probably a mid to late teenager. I've kind of just been yo-yoing.
Okay, stop right there.
Since, really.
What started the relationship with food when you were a teenager? Did something happen?
No, I think it's just my metabolism caught up with me, and I just ended up gaining a bunch of weight. And then I think there might have, I don't know, it's just kind of happened.
I've
always been a little bit.
You're about to say something.
I've always been a little bit larger than everyone else, but it just kind of it started catching up to me, I guess.
Okay.
So.
And how old are you now?
And I'm 28.
28 now. Okay. And then so you've been yo-yoing, and then what?
Well, I am sick of yo-yoing, and I'm trying to figure out ways to, I'll be really disciplined for a shorter amount of time, and then I'll get off the bandwagon and I'll just gain all the weight that I lost back. And I've been trying to learn how to make sustainable everyday life changes that I can stick to, because, I don't want to, I'm riding out my health in my 20s for sure. And I'm not going to be in my 20s forever, and my health is going to catch up to me. So.
Do you like yourself?
Yes.
Tell me about that. Why do you like Liz?
Because I'm adventurous and I'm fun and I work hard.
Yeah.
And I am a great sister and daughter and friend and employee and coworker.
So you told me a bunch of.
I don't have self.
You told me a bunch of external metrics. Those are great performances. Mm-hmm. Why do you like Liz? You told me a lot of things Liz does, especially for others. What does Liz do for herself that she loves?
I work hard, and I enjoy hiking and backpacking. I enjoy spending time with my cat, and I don't know. I'm a student, and I work hard with that.
Do you have good character?
I would say so, yeah.
Do you tell the truth?
Overall. More or less, yeah.
Mostly. Here's what I'm getting at. I always want to know if when someone's got a challenging relationship with food, is it truly between the food, or is it a defense mechanism for something else going on? I started tracking, I've done this several times in my adult life. I started tracking my food intake, and particularly around food that I know is unhealthy for me. And 100% of the times I mindlessly reach for something, whether it's chips or ice cream or just stinking Tyler made his grandma's cookies back in the back studio here. And he was like, you just got to. And I did. And 100% of the time, it's relational in nature or fatigue in nature. Either I'm frustrated about something, I'm disconnected from somebody. My daughter just said a thing that for some reason I decided to allow to hurt my feelings. My wife and I are off kilter. I'm frustrated with my son's math teacher. Me and my boss we're at odds. Something relational in nature. It's a unthinking, I just go do. My body has learned this makes this better for a minute.
Yeah.
Either that or the second one is I'm exhausted. I'm so tired. Do either of those ring a bell to you?
To an extent, yes.
If they don't, it's all good. That's just the way. That's just me following the data of my N=1 experiment with my body. What about you?
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely, when you've talked in the past about, if there's a box of cookies open and you just eat the entire thing.
Yes.
I have that problem. Maybe not the gene to go with it. Who knows? But I have that problem. I know that sometimes when I'm stressed or when I just haven't eaten in a while, I'll be much more likely to stop by and go get some fast food or something, which I've been curbing pretty good lately.
Okay.
But
so here's what the data tells me. A couple of different things, and they're across the board. And I want to preface this with saying I'm not a nutrition expert, and so I want to make sure I don't get out over my skis here. I'm just going to talk to you about stuff in my life, okay, and the folks that I've walked alongside. The first thing, this is relatively recent. I've talked about it on the show just a little bit. It made a lot of sense to me. This idea of chronic stress, that we are running so hard and so fast, and it's not even so hard and so fast relationally or at work. We're in bodies that did not evolve to drive 90 miles an hour to work among other 2,000-pound metal missiles that are driving next to us. We're not designed for all of the email clicks and the phone calls and the text message. We're just not designed for all the assault of marketing messages and you suck and you should look like this and not that and oh my gosh, they're not your friend and they didn't like my video and I don't like them in the real world because they didn't like me in my imaginary world. Our bodies literally are not designed to live in this world. And they've got crude response to stress. Our body does. Fight, flight. There's the fawning one, which is a different thing, and freezing. What never occurred to me, James, do you remember who this was? It Huberman or Attia? One of these smart guys that are way, way, way 10x, 100x smarter than I am. Is talking about if your body recognizes it's in fight or flight, it is going to reach for the cheapest energy source possible. Because it's in search of cheap calories that it can burn for energy right now because it thinks it's in a fight or that it is sprinting for its life. And the cheapest calories we got are cookies and chips, right? Sugar-laden carbohydrates that are going to help us get from A to B. What our bodies don't know is that we're just sitting on the couch watching Netflix. We're watching somebody else getting chased and murdered, but our body sets off to try to defend ourselves against somebody else's problems. And if we watch the news and scroll, et cetera. So step number one is, nope, it's not step number one. I'm going to say step number two. Step number two is look at the world you've created, your ecosystem. Are you taking care of you? Are you stressed a lot? Are you flying around a lot? Are you busy a lot? Because if you are, it might be that your body's trying to take care of you. Does that ring a bell or no? Tell me I'm off.
The stress, like the always busy or stressed, yes.
Okay.
In general.
So the next part is something I got from James Clear, and it rang more true to me than anything else I've ever read, I've ever participated in, I've never ever internalized. And that's this. He wrote his book, Atomic Habits. I highly recommend that people read that book. It's a great book. But the biggest takeaway for me from that book was this. Most of us start a weight loss goal, a relationship with food. We start these things with a number, with a destination, with a goal. And I know enough from the psychology research is that these external metrics, these external things are never sustainable because wherever you end up, there you are, right? So if you lose 20 pounds and you don't like yourself, you're going to be 20 pounds lighter and not like yourself. If you find yourself lonely and disconnected without relationships and you lose 50 pounds, you're going to be lonely and lose 50 pounds. And at some point, your body's going to solve that equilibrium and it's going to do what it can to solve for that discomfort. And if you do drugs, you do drugs. If you do food, you do food. If you work 90 hours a week, you work 90 hours, whatever, you pick your poison, right? So what James Clear says to do is instead of starting with, I want to lose this much weight, or I want to never eat sugar again, or something like that. He said, start with creating a new identity. And I do this every year. Like, this is part of my annual routine. When I just look at my life, how have I been doing? How's my relationship? What are the identities I want to adopt this year? And so instead of saying, I want to lose a bunch of weight, or instead of saying, I want to be less heavy or less big, or I want to have a better relationship with food, instead of starting there, I start with this. I'm a guy who stewards his one precious body. That's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I'm going to backfill things like people who honor their bodies, who are good stewards of their bodies, they don't eat that trash. People who are honored and steward their bodies go to bed. They don't watch Netflix, another show and another show and another show. By the way, I was up to like 1:30 doing edits on my book, and I ended up watching an episode of The Office. By the way, it's the single funniest episode, and it's in season 8, and I didn't even remember it. And I was laughing so hard by myself at 2 a.m. And the whole time I'm thinking, what kind of... You have a show that you teach people how to take care of themselves, and I'm up at 2 a.m. watching TV. You know what I mean? Like, So start with an identity. So you like yourself, and you should.
Yeah.
You're a good human being. You're a great woman. And what do you do for a living?
I work in EMS.
In EMS?
Yeah, on an ambulance.
Oh, gosh. Why didn't you lead with that? Also deal with secondary traumatic stress. Good God Almighty. If you deal in other people's trauma all day, every day, your body is in fight or flight always. Always. The number of times I left a wreck and stopped at a gas station for just some nonsense on the way home was a lot. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Yes. Lead with that next time. So here's the thing. I want you to spend some time. This could be writing it down. It depends on how far you want to go. I want you to write down, get a small little journal, and write down a couple of identities. I'm somebody who takes care of their body. I'm somebody who will show up to somebody else's worst moment, fully present, ready to rock and roll. And so, since I'm that kind of person, this is what I have to do. I have to eat well. I have to not eat nonsense like that. I'm going to backfill those things. The numbers on the scale will take care of themselves if we live into the identity that we want to have. And here's the third big one. You have to have people who walk alongside you. Can't do life by yourself. Okay? Do you have a couple of drivers that would join you on some sort of reimagination? Like, dude, we are Team X, and this is just how we roll. This is who we are.
I'm not quite sure. I don't think
they're all like, screw you. We're going to McDonald's. Forget it.
They're not exactly the most supportive when it comes to stuff, and people bring in goodies all day, every day, especially around Christmas, because, I work at a fire department.
Exactly. The worst. They're the best and the worst. Ugh. I know. Let's start with the identity piece. Let's start with getting a small journal, and I want every time you reach for something, I want you to stop and go, what am I feeling right now? Am I disconnected? Am I exhausted? Am I stressed? Begin to ask yourself that. It may not be at all, and if it's not, then it becomes a much simpler transition. Most of us have to find the gap between impulse and action. Because if we can find that gap, we can pause in that gap and then do another action. That's how you take control of your actions.
Okay.
And will you do me one last favor?
Sure.
Will you be so graceful with Liz?
Okay.
Because I know that you say you like her. I think there's sometimes you don't like Liz. Or sometimes you get really pissed off or ashamed of Liz. Is that true?
More so recently, yes. But this is more chronic.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't fully believe you. I think you're hedging it, but you're in front of a million people, so I get that too. And listen, I want you to be graceful with Liz.
Okay.
Because Liz is worthy of being healthy. Liz is worthy of laughing a whole lot. She's worthy of having a night where she just eats garbage and gets up the next day and goes again. She's also worthy of changing everything. just because. Just because.
Fair enough.
Is that fair?
I think so.
Awesome. Remember one last thing. Your triggers, that's your roadmap. That's the GPS towards getting well. So when you can identify those triggers, then you know to lean. Man, if you're having relationship problems, now you know I got to go work on my relationship problems. If you're doing a job that is high stress, at some point you go, maybe this isn't the job for me, or I got to do it in a different way or in a different capacity, in a different place, because my body's saying that's enough. But whatever it is, you're worth it, Liz. And dude, I'm going to try to take care of myself. You be in too.